Welcome to episode number 23. On today's show, we discuss 5 healthy habits, why networking is so important, and how to use Google Alerts.
When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A car salesman.
Said no one ever.
Hi, I'm Patrick Hennessy.
And I'm Courtney Hennessy.
Welcome to the Be Less Typical in Car Sales podcast, a real-life account of the car business that breaks the perception of what it's like to be a car sales professional. During the show, we're going to take you into the lives and minds of those who have found success. So ignite your passion and get ready to learn effective hacks to streamline your success and boost your income.
So, is that your pitch?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I'm personally invested in people's car buying happiness.
Nathan Hayes, heard there, is the kind of guy that you can't help but like. He has an infectious smile, a great sense of humor, and even if you don't know him personally, just by looking at his social media profiles, you want to be his friend.
He's the kind of guy that just seems real because he is. And he grew up with an all-American dream, just like me. He wanted to be an athlete, probably a baseball or a football player. He figured,
and someday would have, my card, with me on it, or signing autographs and, throwing balls in the stands to kids and hitting home runs and getting all the ladies or whatever I'm sure I thought of at some point.
He's a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, and as a young boy collected baseball cards, played high school football and baseball.
He has a realistic view on life, and when he realized that college sports weren't in his cards, he decided to go to college for an education. And he followed the path that many do. He enrolls, changes majors a few times, 3 or 4, leaves college, then goes back, and graduates with a degree in recreation and leisure studies.
He gets a part-time job only because there isn't a full-time position available in the city's Parks and Recreation Department. His job?
How to schedule ice time, how to, lifeguard, save someone's life, make a schedule, babysit high schoolers, coach youth sports, I umpired for 9 years, and so just naturally I would run a day camp during the day, coach or supervise at night. And a lot of my friends, moved out of town or weren't living here, so I just kind of saved up my money, went to bed, next day did the whole thing over again. So
clearly this can't be all life and adulthood have to offer. So he goes back to college.
Vowed to never move back to Jeff City, Missouri ever again. And here I am in Jeff City.
So his vow to move away doesn't work out, but he does get a second degree, and he finds out that getting a degree is important. However, what that degree is in, not so important.
As a side note, this isn't uncommon. 80% of people who graduate work in a field unrelated to their degree. So how exactly did Nathan get into the car biz? How did he become Nathan Hayes of Jefferson City Autoplex, #1 in referrals, and Director of Customer Experience?
Well, it took some time, but it all started when he joined a local chamber group called Young Professionals. And it's at a Young Professionals meeting that he makes a stand and does something that would make most of us cringe and run for the hills.
Stood up in front of 80 of my peers, all of which I had some sort of acquaintance from because I was from my hometown, and told them, my name's Nathan Hayes, I'm unemployed, have 2 college degrees. Everyone laughed, haha. I guess that's funny when you tell people you're unemployed in 2010. And I had a guy come up to me afterwards and said, man, if you got enough stones to tell 80 of your peers you're unemployed and laugh about it, you should sell cars. And I was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I would never do that.
He may say he'll never sell cars, but his actions tell us something different. He goes home, talks it over with his girlfriend, who's now his wife, and they decide the car biz will fill the gap until something better comes along.
I gotta give him credit because he doesn't just jump in. He thinks things through. He thinks through what the reality of selling cars will look like for him.
I have lots of friends. I'm young. All my friends are, they have their same car from high school, or they just got their big kid job, whatever. So I started kind of putting the pen to the paper and realizing none of my friends sold cars, so I had no local competition, in my age. And so I really started considering it and thought about, ultimately what would a 1-year plan look like, 5-year plan look like, 10-year plan look like, because I figured after I sold, so many people cars after 3 or 4 years, the rest would be, cruise control, be a lot easier.
What I love is that at this point, before he's even applied for a job at the dealership, before he's even sure if this is his next move, Nathan is already outlining who and how he's going to grow his customer base. But before he makes a final decision on if selling cars is his next step, He takes a drive with his grandpa.
So my grandpa, he went to St. Louis. He was in the military. He asked me to go with him to the Army repository where they have Army reports. He used to own the Ford store here in my hometown. So I told him, hey, I'm thinking about getting into the car business. And he, almost stopped the car and he said, I think you'd be really good at it. I never really thought of that before, but you like talking to people, lots of people. You're young, don't have a lot of bills. It'd be a good opportunity for you to make money, make a name for yourself. So kind of with his blessing, jokingly, and then obviously my wife, okay with her.
So with his grandpa's blessing, his wife's okay, and a rough game plan, he decides to take the next step and apply for a position at Jefferson City Autoplex. It's late 2010, and the auto industry has just taken a pretty big hit, and it's just starting to recover. The good news? He gets hired in early 2011.
And as a side note, he still works for the same dealership today. But starting out, things were a little rocky, like his interview.
Up, kind of nervous, didn't really, I had my resume, I was prepared, etc. And then they said, basically, hey man, we're busy, can you come back another time? I didn't technically have a full-time job, so I was at their mercy.
So he goes back, when it's not so busy, interviews, and is offered a position.
He accepts, and it's not too long after this that his preconceived notions about the car business are punctured. He reflects.
And so I always remember saying, I think people come in and ask for a specific vehicle, specific color, specific price. I mean, they know exactly what they want.
And I would venture to say that many consumers feel this way too. They've done their research online, and when they come to the dealership, they're thinking the process will be simple and easy because they know what they want. Nathan's manager explains.
It's not like that at all. And I was just thinking, I'm not very OCD, but I'm a pretty calculated individual.
And I think this is a common perception. However, most of the time, it's not reality. Once the customer is at the dealership, the salesperson has the opportunity to explore all options the customer might not have realized were available as they were researching. This can be a financing option or exploring a lease. Maybe it's a different vehicle the customer hadn't originally considered. There are a host of reasons why this happens, yet it's not common knowledge. Most customers don't walk into the dealership thinking they're going to shop. They think they've done their shopping online. They come to the dealership to negotiate on the price, unless you're me. Then you go to the dealership to shop, because you love the process. I'm an anomaly, I know.
So Nate finds that the dealership and the process of selling cars is a bit different than what he thought it would be, and he finds himself working on a pretty typical showroom floor.
So then, you get on the sales floor. A lot of the veterans didn't really talk to me. You have, the huddle. You have everyone talking about how if they were the boss, how they'd make the dealership better.
Since no one really talked to him, he spends his first month learning his product.
So I just sat back in one of the swank offices in the front of the showroom, and I told all my friends and buddies, this is my office. And they thought it was cool as hell because I got into the car business. I had this sweet office with a door and, glass wall and all my pictures posted up there. And I did all my Hyundai certifications. And then after I got certified, then I kind of hit the showroom floor and knew that, in February, obviously the amount of cars I would sell would dictate my paycheck. So,
and beginning his second month,
the first 2 weeks, I didn't really even try to sell a car. I just watched people, watched people's tendencies, greeted customers, shadowed people, talked to people in service, and then told kind of all my friends on social media and email and phone calls and whatever that I was getting into the car business. And some people laughed, some people thought, oh, you'd be good at this, or some people thought it was cool or whatever else. But ultimately, as in a lot of dealerships I've heard, it wasn't that I was shunned. It was just they expected me to be there 90 days, so there wasn't a point in getting to know me or really helping me too much.
Around this time, there's some turnover at the dealership, and Nathan ends up sharing a desk with one of the more seasoned salespeople.
I'll never forget this. She told me that, she would never up anyone in a PT Cruiser or a Mini Cooper because those people love their cars so much that they wanted way too much money for them, and there was nothing that could replace them.
And this just goes to show that there's risk in having your seasoned staff train new employees. Unfortunately, bad habits and sometimes attitudes can get passed on.
However, despite this, Nathan keeps a positive outlook and has a good attitude.
Jeff City is the capital of Missouri where I live. There's 45,000 people. And so I just looked at that as, 45,000 opportunities, or, you cut that into sections and, they say everyone knows on average 250 people. So I knew the more people that I made happy or kept happy, the more people that I had a chance to sell a car to. So I was excited. I don't really remember being down in, I think my first month I sold 11 cars. The second month I sold 14 cars. And I think the third month would have been May. I sold like 6 cars, and I was like, man, what happened?
His manager pulls him aside and explains this 90-day slump is common. Yet, as Nathan looks around...
I mean, ultimately, I worked with some people that, talked about how great the car business was for them and how awesome it was and whatever. And, I looked out on the lot where employee parking was, and they were driving beat-up old cars and complaining about their bills, and they had bad credit, and they, smoked cigarettes half the day. And, I mean, I told all my bosses, like, hey, look, I've been here 3 months, and I don't want to end up like this. Like, will you help me not end up like this?
He tells us that looking back now, he thinks these feelings were just a fear of the unknown. And I think we can all agree that when fear creeps in, it's sometimes hard to see beyond it. Yet, some fear is healthy, and it can be motivating. How a person reacts to the fear is what's important. Nathan's reaction?
And knew that, ultimately I had goals every month. And then, I knew that I was very strong in terms of customer service. So I knew that if I kept customers happy, then they would send me their friends, family, and workers and everything else like that.
He has an inner confidence that shines.
I tell all my friends, all my coworkers, you're the only person in control of your own actions. And you just have to do it. Know what's right. They talk about a knowing problem and a doing problem. You have to know what's right and just do it.
So Nathan takes control. He takes responsibility for his success, ejects himself from the huddle, and forms healthy habits which will help him achieve success.
He outlines 5 healthy habits.
Number 1, set sales goals for yourself each month.
This will keep you motivated, focused, and in a job.
Number 2, set learning objectives for the entire year.
Continued education keeps your mind fresh and helps you grow and develop your professional skills. For example, my goal for the year is to consume 3 hours of professional education each week. I do this by listening to podcasts, reading books, attending webinars, etc.
Number 3, plan your days and schedule your time.
Failing to plan your time out leads to days filled with reactions. Use your time wisely. Leverage a calendar to schedule your day and create a list of things you can do in your downtime. For example, walk the lot, pay a bill, etc.
Number 4, use social media to stay top of mind.
Be sure your network knows what you do and where you work.
And number 5, network.
This keeps you top of mind and gives you an opportunity to ask for referrals and gain leads.
What I really like about these 5 habits is that they're all tactical and ongoing efforts. And it's not surprising that many of these habits are found in high pots. And we've touched on many of these habits in previous episodes.
We have. However, one that we've talked about but haven't really dove into yet is networking. So let's break down the networking habit, a habit that Nathan refers to as his hobby. Now, remember, Nathan lives and works in the city he grew up in. And for those of us who have been in this type of situation, myself included, it might seem like networking isn't really necessary because it feels like you pretty much already know everyone in your town.
So let's challenge that assumption. Nathan shares how he uses networking as a way to stay connected and why he feels like it's a healthy habit.
They talk about having home field advantage. And so basically the idea behind that is when you walk into a restaurant, you go to the movies, you go to the grocery store, people know who you are.
Home field advantage. I like that analogy. And in addition to that, networking is a way that Nathan overcomes the haters within the community.
That there would still be naysayers, haters, if you will. That's a cool term to use, I guess, now. And so I just looked for ways to get involved.
It's sad to me that people would hate on someone who's working hard trying to make a living. But it happens. And I love how Nathan overcomes this. He gets involved so that the people within his community get to know him personally. He's inserted himself strategically to derail any negative, hater-type behavior.
Nathan's networking activities have allowed him to make a name for himself within the community. He shares with us the different ways he networks. The recording is a little choppy, so I'm just going to list them. Nathan does the following in an effort to network. He volunteers at a local special needs daycare. He's joined the Chamber of Commerce, where he volunteers and does speaking engagements. Most recently, he did a talk on social media for local business. He joined a young professionals group. He's connected with mentors, both locally and nationally. And last but not least, he He started a local networking group. He shares a little about it here.
Local professionals talking about how they could share business with each other. And then it's, not very rigidly structured. Now there's probably 28 people in the group, and everyone knows I sell cars, and one of my friends sells insurance, and one of my other friends is an accountant, and one of them has a pizza place, and so we get seen together at public events and pump each other up as business. We educate each other, talk about books we've read, talk about customer service, different stuff like that. And then, ultimately, all those people know people. So I know that if I'm a professional and that if I get referred someone and I, don't drop the ball, that ultimately, it makes them look good. In our business, we pay for referrals, so they get paid.
Being part of these groups and organizations allows Nathan to be of service to his community, something he's passionate about. The added benefit is that these networks have increased his professional and personal network, ultimately driving traffic into his showroom, giving him more opportunities to sell cars.
Honestly, Nathan is just a personable guy who likes to make friends. And if those friendships end up resulting in sales or referral business, then that's just an added benefit. Striking up a conversation on his honeymoon with some people in the pool about baseball even resulted in a long-term friendship and sales.
I networked with someone on our honeymoon who was from St. Louis, Missouri. They were talking about the St. Louis Cardinals in the pool, and I've sold them. They've sent me referrals, and I've sold them, and my wife just thinks it's hilarious.
All of this just goes to show that chatting people up, making friends, and being personable is a tool we can all leverage. The question is, do you use it? I'm the first one to admit that I don't. Sometimes I feel awkward or just don't feel like being what I like to call cute, witty, and charming. And as I'm listening to Nathan, I'm realizing that this has probably stunted my growth and the growth of my network, maybe even the growth of the show.
So if networking isn't on your to-do list, I encourage you to put it there. The benefits are definitely worth the effort.
Agreed. Switching lanes a bit, Nathan shared with us how he uses Google Alerts, a free service on Google, to ensure he's up to speed and in the know.
I do Google Alerts. So I have Google Alerts set for my name, our dealership, and then all the brands we sell, and then even our competition.
When you create a Google Alert, you get an email notification anytime Google finds new results on a topic that interests you. For example,
if the Hyundai Sonata wins an award or the new Nissan Altima came out today, at least at our stores, 16, the new Civic came out last week at our stores, new Optima came out this week. I knew all that stuff in advance, and then I knew all the accolades and awards that a vehicle would get. So when a customer came in with Consumer Reports or Car and Drive, whatever, I'd already read that article. I saw that, 6 days ago in my, mailbox.
This is a tool I have to admit I've heard of, but I don't know much about. And I definitely hadn't thought of it as a tool that salespeople could leverage. But before we share how you can sign up for Google Alerts and start using them, I want to point out how Nathan heard about it.
So going back to my habits, I joined a networking group, and one of the guys recommended a book to me. It's called The 7 Levels of Communication. It's solely based on the real estate industry, but it can be transferred to any sales atmosphere. And one of the chapters in the book talked about setting up Google Alerts.
So this just goes to show you how the habits Nathan outlined for us all work together. Because he actively networks, networking being one healthy habit, he's learned about a book, continued education being another healthy habit, that teaches him about a tool to help him become a better salesman and professional.
Google Alerts ensure that Nathan knows what's happening in the industry, with his brands, the competition, and it even lets him know if someone is searching his name.
If I go in my account right now, I have 11 alerts. So I have my old dealership, my new dealership, or competition, Honda, Hyundai, Nissan, Kia, the 4 brands we sell. And then I also have my name, and I have some of our competitors' names. And so whenever I'm spoken about on the internet or our brand spoken about on the internet, I get alerts to my email every day. I get about 6 emails.
Okay, so to categorize the alerts he set up, manufacturer and brands, both what your dealership or auto group sells and your biggest competition, dealership name and the dealer names who you consider in-market competitors, your name or moniker or tagline, whatever you're known as online. Once you have your alert set up, you'll begin to get notifications. Nathan shares some examples.
And I just kind of scroll through them. Some of them, they're about a recall. Some of them are about Consumer Reports. Some of them are about awards, spy photos, just various things. You're going to have some customer come in and ask, about the new Ridgeline. Hey, I saw pictures of the new Ridgeline, and I know that they're fake photos, but, it's a conversation piece because I've already read the article, 3 weeks ago. And so it's just one of those things that I feel like, when a customer comes in and asks me about any of our brands, no matter what store I'm at for the day, I know, that much more information. And so I feel like a professional. I know that I can talk fluently about those topics. I know what our competition's doing. I know if someone said something bad about me, which knock on wood's never really happened. And I know, I track all the reviews and stuff we get on, cars.com, Auto Trader, Google, et cetera, et cetera.
So how can you sign up for Google Alerts?
Time out. One quick note. To get a free job aid with step-by-step instructions on how to set up your own Google Alerts, go to belesstypical.com/alerts or text the word alerts, ALERTS, to the number 44222 and opt in. We'll send you a printable version of the instructions along with a list of recommended topics and idea starters. Just go to belesstypical.com/alerts or text the word alerts to the number 44222 and opt in. It's easy. Now, back to the show.
Signing up for Google Alerts is easy. All you need is a Google account. If you don't have one, they're free, so sign up. Then you go to google.com/alerts. Next, pick the topics or keywords you want to be alerted on. If this is your first time, there's a search box at the top, and when you enter a topic, it will give you examples of what alerts you would be sent. Once you pick your topics, you'll be prompted with several other choices.
You can pick different regions, how many you want to get, where to send it to, and then you can update it at any time.
And just like that, you'll start getting alerts.
It's also worth noting that in addition to keeping yourself up to speed on what's happening, this is also a great resource for curating content to share with your customer base and or social network. Or, as the book Nathan referenced earlier outlines it,
the way the book lines it out is if you see something fascinating that maybe your customers are into, then you can just email them and say, hey, I thought of you the other day. I saw this article.
Sharing relevant information that's not sales related is a great way to stay top of mind with your customers and become recognized as someone who's got the inside track on breaking news. There are a ton of possibilities with this. For example, let's say you have a customer who's in the public eye sometimes. Maybe they're on the school board or hold a public office, work for the DNR, whatever. You could set an alert with their name or company, and when Google triggers an article or mention, you can forward it via email or on social, just to touch base and let them know that you saw their thing posted online. And it shows you care.
Putting myself in the customer's shoes, this type of email or social interaction would definitely leave an impression on me. Nathan shares with us.
Anytime there's any recalls or anything pops up, I always email all my customers. And I got mentioned the other day by this lady. I'm not friends with her on Facebook, but it tagged me that said that she mentioned me. And she just said, we bought 2 cars from Nathan Hayes, and he always tells us anything that's going on with our vehicles. He doesn't try to sell us anything. He just wants to make sure that, our family and our kids are safe. And, we will buy the rest of our cars for the rest of our life from him.
This is interesting because Nathan is not friends with this client on Facebook, and he probably wouldn't have known that she posted this. However, because he set up a Google alert for his name, when the customer mentioned him, he got a notification. This gives him a line of sight not only into what people are saying about him, but also the impact and reactions of his effort. Pretty amazing. Bottom line?
And it helps me stay ahead of the game. It helps me educate my customers. It helps me learn something. And it, you wake up in the morning, check your email, maybe check your email at lunch or whatever, and I, learn 4 or 5 things, over the span of 5 minutes, and it helps me communicate and be able to convey my professionalism and knowledge to my customers.
Getting to know your network, providing good service and value, following up, and staying top of mind produces positive outcomes. Nathan shares an excellent example.
I'll never forget my mother-in-law were like, people bring you bottles of wine and like concert tickets and sports tickets and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, all the time. And she's like, man, I'd never do that. And I said, well, do you remember who the last person you bought your car from was? And she said, nope. And I said, I promise you, I'd say 90% of my customers either obviously remember what I look like, not that I'm unique looking by any means, but most of the time they will remember my name, and it's because I fuck with them and I just do little things.
And in closing?
And your ultimate goal, as one of my bosses taught me 4 years ago, make a friend, sell a car. Your ultimate goal is, and I tell people, just don't piss them off, and chances are pretty good that you're going to sell them a car, because people don't, they kind of shop online. Most people want to buy locally. And so if you just kind of, do something that they can remember you by, and make sure you follow up with them. And, you don't have to be snazzy or, have a nickname or, be a slick talker or whatever. You just have to treat people with respect.
Respect. A perfect note to end on. And remember, if you want the free job aid we mentioned earlier in the show that outlines how to set up Google Alerts, text the word alerts, ALERTS, to the number 44222 and opt in.
Thanks for listening, and a special thank you to Nathan Hayes for being a guest on the show. For show notes, go to belesstypical.com/023. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. To find all previous episodes of the show, find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or our website.
Our theme song is by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. All episode editing and mixing is done by us, a couple of amateurs learning as we go.
2 items before we sign off. Number 1, please take a moment to share our show with your friends, family, and coworkers. Sharing is caring, and we appreciate your support. Number 2, if you or anyone you know are conducting car sales in a less typical way, please reach out to us. We want to hear your story, and there's a chance you could be featured on an upcoming show. Send me an email so we can connect. My email address is patrick@belesstypical.com.
Behind the scenes.
Nathan's networking activities have allowed him to make time for himself.
Or name for himself. I don't think time is appropriate.
Shouldn't do this after we eat a big dinner. Pull it together, Patty.